So it was the spring of 1996, and I was sitting in Mrs. Clune's office. Mrs. Clune was my guidance counselor. I was getting ready to graduate that semester, and Mrs. Clune had some questions. I had made some questionable decisions, at least in her mind. I had decided that spring that I was going to forego a scholarship to another college, university, and instead enroll in Bible college that following fall. And she told me, she said, "Chad, I'm just worried about you. I'm worried that you're going to waste your potential. I'm worried that you're going to waste your talent." What a strange thing to say to a high schooler. I'm worried that you're going to waste your talent. What comes to mind when you think of a talent? Most of us think of something, a special skill, a gift, something that we're born with. Maybe I have a musical talent or athletic talents. Or maybe I have talent in the classroom. It's something that we're born with, something that we can either develop or, something that we could squander. But what we do know is that our talent is our own. Our talent is our own. But that's not necessarily what this word means. At least not originally, that's not what this word means. The word talent actually comes from the parable that we read this morning. Now, in the version that was up on the screen, the translation that was read, it actually translated it bags of gold, or bags of silver, I think, bags of silver. But in the original, it was actually the word talent. So you may have heard of the parable of the talents. And the word talent just meant basically a heavy weight. So a talent was basically the amount that one person could lift on their own. And it came to be associated with a weight of gold or a weight of silver. And so a talent of money was a huge sum of money. It was a huge amount of wealth. And the point of a talent is that it's actually not yours. It's something that is entrusted to you to invest, to put to use. Eventually, this word talent came to be associated not just with a weight of money, but it also came to be associated with all those other things that we come to know as talents. Natural talents that we might possess. But here's the point, and this is the point that I want you to hear right at the outset this morning. There is no such thing as a natural talent. Everything that we have, everything that we are, is a gift entrusted to us. Let me say that again. Everything that we have, everything that we are, everything that makes you unique, everything that makes you special, is something that has been given to you, entrusted to you. So Mrs. Clune, my guidance counselor, she was right about this one thing at least. She was right to say that we have some sort of responsibility for our talents. Here's where she was wrong, though. Where she was wrong was in assuming that my talents are all about me. Some of you may have taken a test like this. This is what led to my conversation with Mrs. Clune. I took what was called a career aptitude test. Have any of you ever taken like a career aptitude test? So you sit down, you take the test, and you answer all these questions, and then it spits out some data and tells you, hey, here's what you're going to do with the next 60 years of your life. Isn't that convenient? As if that's the way life really works. I remember I took the career aptitude test, and I remember looking at two particular scores on the career aptitude test. One score was in earning potential. In other words, how much money could you make? The other score was something called social prestige. So in other words, how much social clout can you get if you pursued this particular career? And the way that it worked was you were supposed to match your ability with whatever career had the highest earning potential and the greatest social clout. And so my talents were there to serve essentially myself, to get the greatest income, to get the greatest status, which makes perfect sense according to the wisdom of this world. But that whole idea runs exactly counter to the kingdom of heaven. The parable this morning occurs in Matthew 25. It's toward the very end of Matthew's gospel. In the very next chapter, the plot to arrest Jesus begins to unfold. And so in this chapter, Matthew 25, there's this heightened sense of urgency, intensity, that's just building. And Jesus gives a series of 3 parables in Matthew 25. Each one of those parables is about being prepared for when Jesus would return. The second of these 3 parables, which are all about, like I said, being prepared for Christ's return, is this parable of the talents, or the parable of the bags of silver. And you've heard it read this morning. The parable is about a wealthy man who's going away on a journey. And while he's gone, he entrusts his wealth to 3 different servants. One, he gives 5 bags of silver, or 5 talents. To another, he gives 2. And to a third, he gives 1. The first 2 put the money to work, and they double what has been entrusted to them. The third chose to do nothing with what he had been given. Instead, he hid it away out of fear. And in the end, the first 2 servants are blessed, and the third servant is judged. So what's the point? What's the point of this parable? The point, I think, is that God has entrusted each one of us with blessings, with talents. And he expects that we would boldly, without fear, that we would boldly invest those blessings in his kingdom and watch what God will do in that process. Now, it's easy, I think, to hear this parable. Maybe you had this reaction too when you heard it read this morning. It's easy to hear this parable and think, well, my goodness, that's just harsh. It's kind of a harsh parable. And I think that is part of the point. Jesus wants us, he wants you, he wants me, he wants us to take this seriously. Because here's my theory, here's my suspicion. I think a lot of us believe that God exists, but we don't always believe that God is real. You understand there's a difference between the two. So yeah, I believe that God exists. Sure, yeah, God exists somewhere up there. Sing praises to him. Yeah, it's great. God exists. But I'm not always aware of or thinking about or recognizing the fact that God not only exists, but he's actually real in my life. Like he really does have expectations and even demands of my life. God doesn't just exist. God is real. I think Jesus wants us to hear this parable, and he wants us to take it seriously. So one of the things that led to my conversation with Mrs. Clune was I had some stuff happen in my life. It actually happened in my junior year, towards the very end of my junior year. On April 30th of my junior year, my older sister tragically died in a car accident. She was actually driving to church on Sunday morning, got in a car accident, and she died. And at the time, I was, as a junior in high school, pretty normal kid. My dad is a pastor. I was faithfully, going to church, doing all the things that church kids are supposed to do, trying my best to avoid the things that maybe church kids aren't supposed to do. But basically, I was just kind of going with the flow. I was just kind of skimming along the surface of my faith. I had what I would characterize as a living faith, but it was kind of on life support because it was apathetic. It was without passion. It was without real commitment. When my sister's accident happened, though, I came face to face with the reality of just what really matters in life. Like, what really matters? I mean, there's all this stuff over there that claims to demand our attention and demand our focus, but so much of that stuff is just a distraction. It's just temporary. Jesus says you store up treasures on earth, and you do that forgetting the fact that all these treasures that you store up on earth, they're all going to be wiped out someday. They're all going to come to an end. Rust is going to destroy them. A thief is going to break in and steal. You store up all these treasures, but ultimately they don't amount to much. Jesus says, on the other hand, you store up treasures in heaven, that will last forever. But I came face to face with this reality. And I realized in that moment, now I didn't, I'm going to shoot straight with you. I didn't in that moment say, you know what? Jesus, I'm going to become a preacher. I'm going to dedicate my life to full-time ministry. Someday I plan on standing in front of 1,000 students and telling them about your word. Like, it wasn't that dramatic, it wasn't that quick. But here's what it was. I made a decision as a senior in high school. I'm tired of living my life as if the only thing that matters is me. I'm tired of living my life as if Jesus is just something, an accessory that I've added to my life instead of being at the center of it. And I came to the decision that I'm not going to waste my life just investing in myself. I wanted to invest in something that was going to last forever. I realized that what I had done is I'd put up some caution tape in my life. I put up some caution tape in my life. And basically I was telling Jesus this. I was saying to Jesus, yeah, I'm a Christian. I go to church. I do all the things that I'm supposed to do. But there are certain areas of my life, Jesus, there are certain areas of my life that you're not allowed to pass. You're not allowed to cross. In other words, there are certain things about my life that are just my own. My academics, that's about me. My career, that's about me. My education, that's, Jesus, you don't cross that line. That's about me. And so I had put this caution tape up. I didn't even realize it, but I had put this caution tape up all over my life. And I was following Jesus, but at the same time, I was also sending the message, stay out, keep out. These are my talents. These are my abilities. This is my future. These are my plans. You're not allowed to cross that line. You have any caution tape out in your life? You have anything that you say, that's mine? Those are my plans. Those are my abilities. That's about me. Now, maybe you're not bold enough to actually say that out loud because you don't want to sound like a punk, okay? But in your mind, that's what you're thinking. That's for me. It's not for anybody else. That's for me. Maybe it's your academics. Maybe it's athletics. Maybe it's music. Maybe it's your relationships. You're saying yes to Jesus in every other area of your life except for with that guy. Or except for with that girl. You've put the caution tape out. Nope, you're not allowed there, Jesus. You're allowed at Move. You're allowed at CIY. But you're not allowed when I go to work. No. When I go to college. No. We put the caution tape out. This is not an advertisement for you to, when you graduate, enroll in Bible college and go into vocational ministry. Although I will say I will never, ever apologize or hesitate to call young people to serve Jesus with their life vocationally. Because God knows this world needs more young people, just more people in general who have dedicated their time, their energy, their career to serving Jesus faithfully. God knows we need more of those workers. I will never hesitate or be embarrassed about calling young people to at least consider full-time ministry. But this isn't an advertisement just for that. This is really a call, a general call for every single one of us who's following Jesus or who's trying to follow Jesus or even considering following Jesus. It's a call for each one of us to break that caution tape, to remove those barriers, to stop saying no to Jesus, to stop saying to Jesus, you're not allowed in this area of my life. And instead, take the bold step, the step of faith, the step of trust that says, God, when I'm following you, there are no risks. God, when I allow you to have full reign of my life, there is no risk. Because I know that you are God and I know that you are in control and I know that you want what is best for me. God, I know there are no risks. I'm willing to trust you with my life. I'm willing to trust you with my talents. My call today is very simple. Be bold enough, faithful enough to remove those barriers and to consider how you can use the talents and the gifts that you've been given to serve the King. Let's pray.